my dad had a business, and he was under a lot of stress with his business. And I always said to myself, I don't want to be under that stress. I don't want to run a business. But he was running a very traditional business. But I realized probably on that day that this was going to be my life. I just wanted to focus on this because it was what I always kind of wanted, was some sort of passive income. It's not really that passive, but it felt very passive when you're at work doing your day job and you've got sales coming in. And then one morning I woke up and they'd taken my my listings down. Altogether, it was about 2 million a year. I mean, I don't take any money out of the Amazon business, so I reinvest everything. And it's because I have a day job. I don't need the money from Amazon as such. So I've always been thinking long term. In some ways, Amazon is simpler than what it used to be because there's so many tools out there to make things easier, and Amazon is constantly like updating their Seller Essential to make it easier. I don't want to say saturated because I remember hearing this when I was starting up a business. You would go onto YouTube and people would say, "Oh, Amazon's too saturated now." They were saying it 8 years ago. If you launched a good product, then it's going to work well, hopefully. I think now you probably need to have more money to start off with, and PPC is really a must. You need to be able to, spend money on PPC. You need to understand it to some level. This is my first product. It's a unicorn mug. It's a bit beat up now, but I found this using the tool, and it was making about £10,000 a month.
Hi, everybody. Welcome on the Amazon Seller Truths podcast, the podcast where we interview Amazon sellers who share their experiences, the truths of their business. For this first episode, I'm really happy to have Steve. Steve is someone very important for me because I started selling on Amazon thanks to him. Back in 2018, you shared me a lot of things about Amazon. You introduced me to this world, and now today I'm running a tool for Amazon Seller. So I'm very happy to have you in this first episode. Steve, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. And thank you for having me on your first podcast. It's an honor to be here. And I can't believe it's 2018. That's when we first started doing all this together.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
wow, time
It's a
flies.
long time ago. So
Yeah.
you started selling on Amazon in which year?
2017, I think it would be, yes.
Okay. And when I met you, I remember that you had a Facebook page with 600,000 followers, and I was like, oh, I met someone with a big audience, maybe a big business, and you told me that it wasn't that easy to monetize that audience. Can we go back to that period? How did it all started with this Facebook page, and how did you start about Amazon?
Yeah, sure. So I had this Facebook page for about 2 years, and before that, I was actually working with a developer working on an app, and we made this kind of healthy living app. And I worked on that for about 2 years with this guy. It was just me. So I'm a designer, that's my background, and he's a developer, and we built this little app together. And it was exciting because we launched this app, and it got featured by Apple, and it was just in the Italian app store, and straight away like we started getting some sales from that, and that was a really exciting kind of project to work on. We then eventually went our own separate ways, but after that experience I was really keen to do my own app, but do it in a way which would be purely the way I wanted to do it. So instead of investing a load of time and money building the app at the beginning, I thought it'd be nice to start building up an audience. It was around like cooking and healthy eating. So I'd seen a Facebook page called Tasty, and they were making all of these little recipe videos. They were quick; they're only 1 minute long, and they were getting a lot of engagement, a lot of views. And I looked at their page, and they had like millions of followers. And I thought to myself, wow, if I could create something similar to this, I could then get some followers, and then eventually I'll be able to release an app to them. And because I would have built up some trust within the audience, they would hopefully download the app and then start using it and eventually make some purchases. So that was the thinking. So I started making recipe videos just at home at the weekend and started posting them. And for the first 2 or 3 videos, there wasn't really much going on. I got a few likes and shares, and then I made one video which really kind of blew up, and my Facebook page really started to grow. I got like 10,000 followers, and then it jumped to 50,000, then 100,000, and that gave me a lot of enthusiasm to keep on going and making the content. So I done that for about 2 years, making all of this content, making videos every week. I think I made close to like maybe 100 plus videos. and some videos got over like 26 million views, and people were sharing them like crazy. But the problem was I didn't have anything to sell them. The app wasn't ready, and I had people contacting me saying, "Hey, look, what kind of kitchen utensils are you using in your videos and stuff like this? Do you sell them?" People asking me, "What protein powder do you recommend?" And I didn't have any kind of product to put to them that I could say, "Hey, look, this is what we sell. This is what we're about." So I was referring them to other kind of websites that were even without affiliate links. So these websites were delighted they were getting all of this traffic for free.
Mhm.
Um, and then I met somebody that told me, look, you should, start trying to monetize this by like having some products on there, and that's kind of where the Amazon whole thing came into. I was thinking about obviously making the app initially, but the problem was that I didn't have the money to hire a developer or a company to develop it for me. I could do all the design, that was fine, but I wanted to remain in complete control of the app and not give anyone any equity of the business, which is probably the wrong way to go about it.
Mm.
So I wanted this pay for someone to develop it. So I was looking to get some money to start this app.
Okay. So before even working on that app with your ex colleague, was you were you thinking about entrepreneurship, or is that something you just discover by luck?
Yeah, so no, I wasn't. My dad had a business, and he was under a lot of stress with his business, and I always said to myself, I don't want to be under that stress. I don't want to run a business. But he was running a very traditional business, and I could have potentially walked into that business and carried it on after he retired, but I really didn't want that. Um, so for me, like I was happy being an employee. I enjoyed being a designer, and the reason I started doing this app with this guy was because I wanted to build up my portfolio. I just wanted to have another app to showcase. Say, look, I built this app with this friend, done it in my spare time. It would show a potential employer some initiative. And I remember when we first started talking about this app, he already had some basic version of it, which didn't look very good design wise because he was a developer. He'd done the best he could. It wasn't that great. Um, and I said to him, look, um, I'm happy to work with you on this. Like we can do it as a partnership, but I would like to do it in such a way where we can hope to make some money. And it wasn't really to make money for me as such. It was just more a case of this. I have no idea how this could make money, and let's try it. Because when you're working for a company, like you can have ideas, but they don't always act on them. So you're kind of you never get to see if your idea is any good. But when it's your own project, you can try it, and if it crashes and burns, well, that's fine. But if it works out, and then you can take the credit for that. And he agreed. So we started this revamping his app and added these in-app purchases, which then started to sell. It was only making probably $10, $20 a day, but I was really inspired by that. I was like, wow, look, we have our full-time jobs and making money from that, but we have this little thing working for us on the side. And it was just in the Italian market, just for iOS. I was like, wow, if we expand this to all these other countries, got it translated and put it on different platforms, like we could even, make a lot more money. Um, so once I saw that kind of little success, I realized that, like with the internet and with app stores and all of this,
Mm.
you can really make money just being in your bedroom at home.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm,
and
mm.
Amazon's very similar to this.
Yeah, yeah. And then you launch your Facebook page, being inspired by very big pages with a lot of millions views. Uh, you mentioned some videos that pop out. What were these videos special? Did you do something different than the other video? The first one that did a lot of views.
Yeah, it's difficult because I was always kind of trying to work out why some videos performed better than others.
Mhm.
Most videos at a certain point were getting like 200, 300,000 views, which is a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but this one particular video I launched and it just exploded. Like I looked at it like a few months ago and it's got like 27 million views, I think now, and it's still getting views. And I could never really work out why it done so well. I would think, well, maybe it's because of the backdrop I used, or maybe the music, or at the time that I posted it. It's really difficult to really work out why some do better than others, and you try and replicate it, and it doesn't always work that way. It's just
Mm.
you just have to keep on making content. Some work, some doesn't work.
Yeah, so the only thing sure is that you are very consistent on releasing video on a weekly basis.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the one thing I was doing. I was making the videos at the weekend.
Yeah.
So I'd film it on a Saturday, edit it on a Sunday, then post it Sunday night. And
Okay.
I was doing this almost religiously every single week. This
Okay.
was before I had a family and
Yeah.
and stuff like this, other commitments.
Yeah, sure. Things become a little bit more complicated. And you have a designer background, so I think you have a nice view of visual things. And also, your recipes are good. I tested myself a
Oh,
few,
okay.
few years ago, so I think
Good.
that also helped with that. You mentioned that then you met a friend who taught you about Amazon and how you could monetize your audience. Uh, how was it?
Yeah, so I met this lady who was in the entrepreneurial space like many years ago, even before I moved to Dublin, and pure luck really how I met her. But the thing was, she came over to Dublin to see a friend. And she said, "Look, you're in Dublin. Let's meet up." So we met up, and she was working on creating the VA business. VAs over in the Philippines, but she was very much had this kind of like growth mindset, entrepreneurial kind of mindset, and it was really interesting and inspiring to listen to her. And I told her about my Facebook page, and that's when she said, "Look, you need to start monetizing this by selling actual products to people. Just have them in your videos." And I thought, wow, that sounds interesting. But as she was explaining it to me, I knew nothing about Amazon FBA. I didn't even know that there were all these little sellers selling on Amazon. I just thought it was just Amazon selling everything. So when she was telling me, I was kind of thinking, this is kind of interesting. I can see why people do it, but it's not really my area of expertise. I just want to focus on design. So she told me about it, and I dismissed it initially. And then as a few months went by, and I realized that I wasn't going to be able to get the capital to make this app, I thought, well, why don't I try this Amazon business, see if I can make some money from it, and have the money to then build the app. Uh, and then what worked out happened was that I forgot about the app and just focused on Amazon because it was making enough money that I didn't need to worry about the app.
Mm-mm. So how did you start on Amazon? Did you start big with a big product or just test it with a small product?
Yeah,
How did
so when I started the Amazon business, I watched a few YouTube videos as everyone does,
mm,
and I I was kind of inspired by some of these people saying they're making like $10,000, $20,000 a month, and they would show you their sales report and everything.
mm,
But I was a little bit like cynical. I was like, well, if they're making so much money, why are they telling everyone about it? Like, it
yeah,
doesn't make any sense. Surely they
yeah,
should just stick to an Amazon business. But I decided to look into it a bit more. There was some tools out there, some free tools that would show you the sales that each like product was making on Amazon, and I could see this one particular thing. I actually have got it here. It's this is my first product. It's a unicorn mug. It's a bit
unicorn.
beat up now, but I
Yeah.
found this using the tool, and it was making about £10,000 a month. So I went onto Alibaba and I found a bunch of suppliers manufacturing this unicorn mug, and I just contacted them saying, "Oh, how much does it cost for one of these to be shipped from China to the UK?" And they told me it was like, I think it was something like $4 or something, DDP. And then they sent me a link saying, "Do you want to start the order?" And I was a bit like shocked because I was like, I didn't even have a company set up or anything, and I hesitated like for a week or two, and then I thought, you know what, like I can place an order, and it was something like $2,000 to order like I think something like 400 unicorn mugs. And I thought, let's just go for it. I mean, $2,000 is a lot of money, but if I lose it, I'm not going to be homeless. I can still pay my bills. So I just went for it. I placed the order even before I had the company set up. And what ended up happening was that it was meant to arrive in time for December, so getting all the Christmas sales. But because I'd done things in such a haphazard way, it took me a long time to get my company set up because I was having to do it remotely. And there was a few other little issues that the goods didn't arrive until the end of January. So that was a bit worrying. I thought I was going to be stuck with all of these unicorn mugs.
Yeah.
But what happened was, like, as soon as it arrived, it was
Mm.
2018, January 23rd. It was about half 11 at night.
Mm,
I knew that the stock was going to be coming in
mm,
that sort of time. And I checked on to my Amazon Seller Central, and I'd sold one. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I said to Elodie, I sold one of these unicorn mugs because I was
mm,
worried that I was going to be stuck with all of these things. I couldn't
mm,
believe that somebody bought one. I went to sleep that night. I woke up in the morning and I'd
mm.
sold four more. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody's been buying these unicorn mugs when I've been asleep. And by the
Mm.
end of that day, I was checking the app throughout the day. I was making a sale here, sale there. I think I sold about 21 unicorn mugs. And then the
Without
next
doing any ads or anything.
nothing. It was I was piggybacking off somebody else's listing, which I didn't really know what that was at the time.
Mm.
So I did like literally no work. I didn't have to create the listing. I just piggybacked off somebody else's, and yeah. And then the next day I made 20, 22 sales, and then the following day same kind of thing. I think by the end of that week, I then placed another order for 500 unicorn mugs because I knew that I was going to run out of stock. But I realized probably on that day that this was going to be my life. I just wanted to focus on this because it was what I always kind of wanted was some sort of passive income. It's not really that passive, but it felt very passive when you're at work doing your day job and you've got sales coming in. So it was really, really exciting.
Okay. Did you follow any training for that?
None. Like at the beginning, which
Yeah.
is maybe a little bit of a mistake. I mean, I was just gone on YouTube, so what would happen? Maybe that's why things were in a quite haphazard way because I didn't really know what order to do things in.
Mm.
So I was slow getting started and made mistakes.
Yeah.
I did later pay like $100 for some training. I think which I shared with you,
Mm.
and it was really good. This guy Benji, it was I think the course is called 0 to 10K or
Yeah.
something.
The FBA Freedom Formula 0 to 10K.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Um, and that was good because it filled in some of the blank spots for me that I didn't
Mm.
really understand or know about. And it
Mm.
would have been much more useful to have watched that first before launching a product.
Mm. Mm. Okay. So then you sold all your unicorn.
Yeah, I sold all of them, sold the next
Mm.
batch, and I think I ordered another batch. But the problem was because I was piggybacking, there were other sellers on there. There's about 15 sellers, and I came on there and I was winning the buy box. I was getting the sales, and then of course they would come along, undercut the price by 10p, and then they would win the buy box, and it was kind of like a race to the bottom. And I thought to myself, well, I don't even need to be selling these kind of generic items. I can be private labeling and having my own brand on these items and sell them, get a trademark, and then nobody can piggyback off me, and I have more control over the listing. So eventually, that's what I ended up doing. But this unicorn mug was great because I learned a lot on the process, how to ship things in, and how it all kind of worked. And it gave me the confidence to then private label something.
Okay. Then you started private label a product based on your audience, or was it what
Yes.
was the process of choosing the product you was selling?
Well, I wanted to be able to have a product which I could um, integrate into the videos and start posting videos with like kind of product placement really, and then people and leave a link so people could go and buy that product. Um, and that's what I'd done. I was actually selling some bento boxes at some point, and I made a video of that and then posted the link, and then I got a lot of people buying the product from that. But and then Facebook changed its algorithm, so it meant it started to prioritize friends and family posts over page posts, and that had a massive effect on the page. Like I would get like 90% less views and traffic because of that, and they started to penalize you when you started putting links on there to take their audience away from Facebook. So it really became a lot more challenging to make it work in that kind of way. But the things it didn't matter that much at the time because Amazon obviously has a lot of traffic going to Amazon anyway, and as long as your product is kind of relatively well like ranked, it's going to get organic sales, and of course you can do PPC as well. So the Facebook page actually kind of started to take a back seat, and I didn't really focus on that as much. It was very difficult as well. It was a very time consuming thing to be doing, making all of the content. It was like a whole weekend all of the
Mm.
time. So whereas Amazon was a lot more kind of hands off.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So you start selling on the UK or in the US market?
So I started selling in the UK. I think I went over to Australia next. That was like it was up and coming. They only had like one or two like FBA centers over there, and Benji, I think, done a course on that, which I bought his course, and it showed how to sell on Amazon Australia. I think he's Australian as well, so I opened up there. That was very slow. I wasn't making much sales in Australia at the time, and then I think I went into Europe because Amazon were doing this promotion where they had this pan Europe program where they would pay for you to have all of your VAT numbers and registration and everything sorted over there at their expense, which saved I think about £4,000 or £5,000. No, they just paid for it for the first year. So I yeah took that promotion, then went over into Europe, which was a lot easier before Brexit because you could have all of your stock sent over to the UK, and then Amazon for free would just move stuff over to Europe. So it was wonderful. And then I think I did at some point go over to the US, but I only started selling one little small item over there. I was always very nervous about the US because it being obviously a very entrepreneurial country and lots of the Amazon sellers over there. And I felt like, I didn't have the experience or confidence to really get into that market. That I did launch the product over there and it did do reasonably well. The problem was I didn't have a trademark over there and I kept on getting
Mm.
hijackers onto my listing.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
couldn't get them off.
Okay.
And for the brand name I had, it was going to be very difficult to get the trademark over there. So in the end, I just kind of pulled out. I went to Canada and started selling in Canada, and
Mm.
that's been somewhat successful as well.
Okay. 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 And then
One
I
day we'll go
remember.
back to the US, I think, once I
Yeah, that's
feel
still the
feel like
plan.
I'm ready for the challenge.
Okay. 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 And I remember a few months after you start selling on, I think it was the UK. I remember you got blocked by Amazon for a few weeks
Yes.
for some reason. How was it? I think.
Stressful. Like
Yeah.
what happened was like in the UK, you once you hit a certain threshold of £85,000, you're then meant to become VAT registered. I kind of
Mhm.
knew about this anyway,
Okay.
and I hadn't hit that threshold, but I think there was 2 or 3 months where I was selling 15, £20,000 worth of stock every month, and I was going to hit that threshold, but I hadn't actually technically done it. But Amazon took the initiative to block me. They basically sent me an email saying, "Hey, we think you should be VAT registered. If you are, you need to register as a VAT company and then give us your VAT number." I kind of ignored that. I spoke to my accountant and said, "Yeah, you don't need to be." So I ignored it. And then one morning I woke up and they'd taken my listings down. I think they just blocked. I think I couldn't even get into my account other than to put in my VAT number, something like this. And it was just before going away on holiday as well. So it was super stressful because I'd had a load of stuff manufactured, which had been sent over to the UK, which arguably, if I couldn't get this fixed, I was going to be stuck with. Um, but my accountant was very good. He got on the case. He then got a VAT number registered. It took a little while, but I got it. I gave it to Amazon, and then they kind of opened up my account again.
Yeah. Kind of the challenge you can face on Amazon, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things that you don't really hear about that much.
Mm.
It's like it seems great when you're making all the sales, and it is great, but sometimes Amazon just will pull you down for no real reason that you're well. There
Mm.
is always a reason, but you don't always know what you don't know. And
Mm.
sure enough, like if you upset Amazon, they have all the power, so you just have to
Yeah.
watch out for that.
Yeah. Sure. And then you keep growing your business. One time you told me that you almost start selling outside of Amazon in a distributor. I think it was Tesco or something like that.
Yeah, I never actually done that, but I was thinking of going to some of these. I think they're called like vendor meetups or something. It's a
Mm.
couple of times a year you can go to these little vendor places and speak to Tesco's and ask
Mm.
them, or you can present your product, and if they like it, they can then start putting it on their shelves. I thought about that because it's a good way to shift a lot of stock, but I never actually really done it, and I think partly the reason why is because logistically, it's always been a bit of a challenge to try and have all of your products in all of the different countries in stock all of the time. And I was always running out of stock, and I didn't feel like that I had that side of the business nailed down. So if Tesco's wanted to order 5,000 units, I didn't feel that I could respond quick enough. And I also cash flow as well. Cash flow was a big issue for me at the beginning. So yeah, I didn't do it in the end.
Okay. How did you manage your cash flow challenges?
Badly, very badly. So, like I said, I started with $2,000, which was
Mm.
fine,
Mm.
but you need more than that because, like, as you're selling through the stock, you've had to pay for it already, and that money comes in sort of slowly because you're selling one unit at a time, and then you have to wait 2 weeks for Amazon to give you the money. So what ended up happening was that in order for me to place the next order, I couldn't wait for them to all to sell through. I had to then put it on a credit card. So at a certain point, I had money on credit cards, on personal loans. I even borrowed some money from my dad. So, and that really comes down to bad cash flow management. I now have a tool that sort of helps me with this a little bit, but that really was a big challenge for me, and that's this my inexperience as a business owner. So really, the two biggest things that I really struggled with was inventory management and cash flow
Yeah.
management.
And that was related, right? The cash flow was related to the inventory management, I
Yeah,
guess.
it is. I mean, the trouble was because I didn't have the cash to place the order when I needed to,
Mm.
it would then mean that I would run out of stock.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't a good place to be in. I think if I was to start over the business again,
Mm.
I'd know the numbers a bit better and I'd be able to predict this a bit more.
Okay. And I remember you also meet your suppliers to negotiate the orders so you can have a better cash flow management. Uh,
Yeah,
how did it goes?
yeah. So they have like these events. I think it was in Frankfurt, and there's one in the UK that I went to, and I saw that same supplier twice. And yeah, it's good when you meet them in person. It's a bit more personal, and you can negotiate a better rate. And what I'd done was I went to meet them, and they had their head boss there, and I said, look, I think at one point I was at that point in time I was ordering maybe 2,000 units at a time, and I committed to order 10,000 units or something like this, and managed to get a much cheaper price. So that was definitely a good experience to do that. And also you get to they're like fairs, trade shows. You can go around and you can see other people selling the same thing, and you can potentially negotiate a better deal with them as well. And you get to feel the product as well. You know the fact that they've come all that way. They're not some sort of small Mickey Mouse trading company. They're actually fairly legit.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. And then you are ordering 2,000 units. You moved back to 10,000 units. How much revenue were you making a month approximately at that period? And how much was it in terms of profit?
Like back in that period, I think maybe I was doing about £20,000 or something like this per month. Um, yeah, and the profit margin does depend on the country and the
Mm,
product, but
yeah.
typically, holistically, it would be about 15%
Okay.
gross profit.
Okay.
So net, that could be like 12%. Once you take into account some, you
Yeah.
need to pay for your software, you need to pay for your accountants and stuff like
Mm,
this, and
mm, mm,
any other kind of costs like laptops and events you go to.
mm, mm. Okay. So what was the goal? The goal was it to move full time on your Amazon business at that time?
Yeah, that was the goal, to
Mhm.
do that, and it still is, I suppose, the goal. Though you know, Amazon business is good in some sense because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend 40 hours a week doing it. You can do, of course, but once you've got things set up, a lot of it is just maintaining. Now, if you want to grow it, then you do need to spend more time and launch more products, and there's many things you can be spending your time on. Um, but at the moment, I still have a full time job, which I do, and the Amazon business I do in the evenings and at the weekend, and that works kind of fine. I mean, I would say that it would be nice to have a bit more time, so I'm not always constantly working because now I have a young child, and it'd be nice to spend more time with her as
Yeah.
opposed to doing the work in the evenings and weekends.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Then few years after that, COVID hit. Was it an opportunity selling on Amazon at that time, or was it difficult?
Yeah, it was bittersweet.
Mm,
It was good in the sense that we had lots of people suddenly buying online,
mm,
so the sales were good. But the bad side of it was that Amazon put on these restock limits, which would mean that you wouldn't be able to send in the stock that you needed, which was insane because they didn't have the capacity because loads of people were ordering online, loads of people were setting up businesses online. They had to make sure that all the staff were, keeping safe distance apart from each other. So I think they were kind of somewhat reduced in their capacity there. So that was really tough. And also, probably the biggest thing was the shipping crisis that came as a consequence of that. as I'm sure you experienced, the shipping cost was insanely high. So normally I would spend like £2,000 to have a shipment over to the UK from China. At the highest point, I think it was close to 12,000. It was like 11 or 12,000 pounds for exactly the same shipment. It was killing me. Like, and I was just like, and because I was sending to Europe, to Australia and Canada, and to the UK, it was very difficult to manage all of this. Not only was it super expensive, but it was super um, unreliable as well. It would normally take 65 days from when it left China to get into the Amazon warehouse. Sometimes it was taking 90 to 100 plus days. And that would cause issues because for anyone that's had this issue, like when you create labels on Amazon, shipment label, it only has a window of 90 days. And once that closes, because if it hasn't arrived, and then technically you need to get it all relabeled, which was a real nightmare. Sometimes I could call up Amazon and get them to kind of unclose the shipment, and then it could be sent in. But sometimes they wouldn't do it, so you had to get everything relabeled. Had to start using 3PLs to store goods because you didn't have the inventory limit or allowance to send stuff into Amazon. So it was a real nightmare, and it was probably the closest I've come to going out of business, which is crazy because I had lots of sales, but I had so many other costs and problems that it was very difficult to make it work, and that really exposed my inexperience as a business owner when it came to cash flow and project cash flow management and inventory management. It really, really exposed that. But the good thing is, I kind of got my fingers burnt from that, and I've had to put in, processes in place, which has improved the process for me.
Okay, how did you do it? Did you follow a training or someone helped you to manage that?
Not really, no. I mean, a lot of it. So for the inventory planning,
Mm,
I do it on Google Sheets. In
okay,
fact, I wish somebody would actually build a tool that would make this easier,
yeah.
because I'm having to like go in manually and do things. And I've got like a sort of a template set up, which works quite well.
Mm,
But it is a bit manual and having to put in some of the data. But as long as I keep on top of it, it actually works quite well. When it comes to the cash flow forecasting side of things, I actually use a simple like personal budgeting tool called PocketSmith. It's not built for this, but it's actually really good because you can plot over the whole year like all of your expenses, and it has a graph to show your cash flow, and it connects with all of the banks, so it shows your cash position, which is great. So that, okay, at this point I've got X amount of money in the bank account. In 2 months' time it's going to be at this amount, and you can move things around.
okay,
So that was really, really helpful.
okay, and that's worked well until now to fix that cash flow and inventory management issues.
Sorry, say that again.
And that's working well today to
Yes,
manage your
yeah,
business.
it's working. It's not perfect, but it's working pretty well.
Okay. Okay, great. Did you have some issues with ads advertising, PPCs back then and now, and how it is going regarding PPC?
Um, it's one of the areas that I haven't spent as much time on as I should do. What I done, I mean, this is kind of the training that I would have seen off some YouTube guy, where you set up an auto campaign, you let that run, and then you see what keywords are working well, and then you put that into a manual campaign, and that's what I've really done. And I haven't really spent much more time making it more sophisticated over the years. Like the PPP strategy has become more kind of dynamic and sophisticated, and I haven't kept up with that. I mean, to be fair, the products that I sell are reasonably good when it comes to conversion, and the PPCs that I have do reasonably well. But it is an area which I know it could be optimized. I would say probably a third of all of my sales come from PPC.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I could just switch it off, and I would still make organic sales. But I think what would happen would be that I would start to lose organic ranking, and then I'll
Mm,
start losing organic sales.
yeah.
So I think it's just one of those things you have to have. You need to have PPC as part of your business plan.
Yeah. And did you try to delegate that to a virtual assistant, an agency, or
So recently, last October, November time, Amazon called me up
mm,
and said, "Look, we will manage your PPC for you. We have a designated PPC specialist that will do it all for you." And I kind of thought to myself, wow, and it's free. They said, "Look, we'll do it for you for free." Okay. So I said, okay, why not? Let's give it a go. So I jumped on a call with this PPC manager, and she said, "Look, we'll set up all these campaigns for you in all these different countries." And I was quite excited about that because when it comes to like France and Germany, which are the big European ones, I don't speak this language, so it's difficult for me to make it work over there. So I thought if I have a specialist doing this, it will improve things. But it was about 6 months of trying that, and it really wasn't that great, to be honest with you. I felt that they weren't doing a particularly good job. They were spending a lot of money. So my ad spend would normally be about 10,000 a month, and it increased from 10,000 to £20,000 a month. And of course, I got more sales, but they weren't very profitable sales. In fact, they weren't profitable at all, a lot of them. And I just felt like they were just creating campaigns, and every time I'd meet them, they would then say, "Oh, we'll set up these campaigns to spend more money." And really, what I wanted was somebody to manage them and optimize the campaigns to really have them well targeted. So, I mean, maybe I need to give them more time, and maybe I'm being a little bit unfair to them, but it felt like it wasn't very viable for me long term.
Yeah, yeah. I guess letting everything to Amazon is quite risky. The more
Yeah,
they
I mean,
spend,
look,
the more they
they win
win.
anyway, right? Because if I spend an extra 10,000 a month on PPC, like they're happy,
Yeah,
and you know, that's the way it is, I think.
yeah, sure. And now, more than what, 7, 8 years after starting selling on Amazon, 7 years. What are your results today? Do you live out out of out of your Amazon company? Um,
Yeah, so I mean, I don't take any money out of the Amazon business, so I reinvest everything.
okay.
And it's because I have a day job. I don't need the money from Amazon as such. So I've always been thinking long term to just build the Amazon business. I do like the idea of obviously leaving the full time job and just working solely on Amazon, and there will come a point where that makes sense. But at the moment, I can do both, and I like the fact that the business isn't having money taken out of it just to give me an income. The business can grow, so all of the money spent on, launching new products or more stock or into other countries or paying for software or something like this, or just
Mm,
having the buffer of cash in the business.
mm, mm. How many
But
products do you have today?
sorry,
How many products do you sell today?
so there's about 10 products in multiple different marketplaces.
Okay.
Um, and I launched, I think I only launched 2 products last year. This year, I hope to maybe launch 1 or 2 more. They
Okay.
all take a bit of time, as you know. Like you have to
Mm,
obviously do all the research, get the samples sent over, and then you have to create the listing itself. And then there's no guarantee it's going to succeed.
mm, mm.
So it's a lot of work, but yeah, hopefully this year we'll get around to doing a couple more.
Okay, got it. Are you doing all together, all alone, the listing, etc., or do you delegate some of the work?
No, so everything I do myself. Like the only exception to that is customer service. I have a VA over in the Philippines that does the customer service side of things. It's a very simple task that somebody can do. That if I was to try and do it myself, it yeah, this takes up too much time. So she takes care of that, which is great. Um, she has done other stuff for me for my social media stuff. She's edited videos and stuff. I've created the videos, she's edited them. Um, I use sometimes third party companies for. I have had some actual ad videos made, and I've used a company in Poland for that. When it comes to writing the listings as well, I pay a writer to do the listings.
Okay,
Um, so these little things.
okay, okay. And out of your 10 products selling on multiple marketplaces, approximately what is the monthly revenue you're able to generate today?
So altogether, with all of them, I wouldn't be able to give you the exact number when it comes to breaking down each marketplace, but altogether, it's about 2 million a year,
Okay,
pounds. So,
with
and I would
approximately the
say,
same profit? Same,
and yeah, the profit margin would be about 15%.
okay.
So it's good. I think really you need. I would like to see that closer to 20%,
Mm,
um,
mm,
and I have increased it a bit over the years.
mm,
But yeah, like when it came to the shipping crisis, it was very difficult. I think I was running at 5% profit
mm,
margin, which
yeah.
was very low and dangerous. Like,
Mm, mm,
but now like the shipping prices sort of normalized compared to back then. So yeah, I think the biggest issue I'm having is running out of stock. And when
mm,
you run out of stock, you have these gaps and you lose position, and it takes you, time to get back to where you were.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, jack up the PPP spend,
Yeah,
and stuff like this. So yeah, I would like to see it closer to 20%.
yeah, sure, would be great. So what are your goals now for the next months, the next years, maybe?
So I think I mentioned on a previous conversation with you, like I've got a warehouse now. It's just a small warehouse near where I live. That's going to make things a lot better when it comes to getting stuff sent into Amazon instead of having to be at the mercy of the shipping chain. So I've got that set up. There's an office being built in there. So for me to be able to move in there, not to have to work from home, that's going to be a nice thing. And the goal would be to obviously reduce the amount of stock outs that I've had over recent years. And then more long term, it would be either to go full time with Amazon, but probably longer term than that would be to sell the business. And it's an exciting thing to do because there's loads of people that want to buy Amazon businesses, particularly ones that have been well established, which are doing well, which are growing, have got good reviews, got a healthy account. So yeah, if the price is right, that would be people I'm looking to do.
Great, great. I hope you'll reach that. And I remember a few years ago you made an estimation of your business, and it was around 2,000 hundred, 200,000 back
Yeah.
a few years ago.
So on Helium 10, they have this valuation tool on there,
Mm, mm,
which would be it would obviously connect to your Amazon account. It will see all the metrics and how many sales and even the profit margin and the health of the account, and it will give you an estimate. Um, I I don't really I take it with a pinch of salt because last time I looked at that, it had it valued at about 2.5 million or something like this dollars, which would be great. If I knew I could get that, I'd probably sell tomorrow. But
yeah.
from speaking to aggregators and other people that buy Amazon businesses, what
Mm,
they tend to say is that it's a 3 to 4x multiple of your profit.
okay.
So if you're making 100,000 a year in profit, and then obviously you're going to be able to sell the business for 3 or 400,000.
Mm,
So I'm a little way off what I would want it to be if I want to sell for like 2 million or something like this.
okay. Are you considering selling outside of Amazon the same product, or are you
Yeah,
focused
so
on?
I sell on eBay and
Yeah.
Etsy. I've recently launched a Shopify store as
Okay.
well, but it's small stuff. I mean, I would say it represents maybe 2 or 3% of the total sales. Um, the profit margins are better, and you have a bit more flexibility. You're not worried so much about these stores kind of shutting you down the same way Amazon does. But Amazon's is so massive. I went to Silicon last year, and there was a lot of talk around Walmart for those US based sellers. So I suppose if I went over to the US again, like maybe that would be something I would look at. But
Okay.
really, Amazon is the biggest one by far.
Okay, okay. And if we compare a few years ago when you start selling on Amazon and today, did you notice an increase in Amazon fees? Is it more complicated today? What's changed?
Yeah. So um, yeah, the fees have gone up. I mean, it's hard to really work out if that's just a case of inflation, right? So obviously,
Mm,
inflation goes up, so Amazon fees go up. Um, in some ways, Amazon is simpler than what it used to be because
okay.
there's so many tools out there to make things easier,
Mm,
and Amazon is constantly like updating their Seller Central to make it easier.
yeah,
I also use Amazon Global Logistics Service. That's their shipping service, which has made things a lot easier for me because before I'd have to use a separate shipping company, and there was always more work involved. Now using Amazon, it's really hands off, so it's made it a lot easier, and it's cheaper as well. So that's been really good. And yeah, all the tools out there as well have made things a lot easier. Even AI is making things easier. So in a lot of ways, it's easier. In some ways, it's I don't want to say saturated because I remember hearing this when I was starting up a business. You would go onto YouTube and people would say, "Oh, Amazon's too saturated now." They were saying it 8 years ago. I don't think it's necessarily the case. It's too saturated. There's always other markets to go to, and if you launch a good product, then it's going to work well, hopefully. I think now you probably need to have more money to start off with, and PPC is really a must. You need to be able to, spend money on PPC. You need to understand it to some level, um, and obviously try and launch something which is a bit unique as well.
Okay.
So it's probably more involved, but
Mm.
there's more help out there.
Okay. Okay. Great. And you mentioned the tools ecosystem. Can you share some tools that you use that help you save time and money?
Yeah, so I suppose the tool that I use the most is Seller Board.
Yeah.
And this has been a big help. It's not even that expensive. I think it's like $15 a month or something.
Mm, mm,
Um, but it's a profit tracking tool, and
mm,
it's really helpful for you to understand your numbers.
mm,
If you're trying to work out yourself, it's quite difficult. But with this tool, you can just plot in like your cost of goods, and then if you're VAT registered, you can add that. It connects to your PPC account as well, and it will tell you how many sales you made that day, and it'll work out your profit margin, and it connects to all the other marketplaces as well. So it's one of the best tools for that. It could be a little bit slicker in its design, but just purely from the data point of view, it's actually really good and it's super cheap as well. And then probably the other tool that I use is Helium 10, which is not so cheap. I don't use it as much, but it is more sophisticated than Seller Board. I don't use a profit tracking tool because it's not that good. But all of the other tools there, like keyword tracking and helping create your listing, there's a bunch of tools in there. A lot of them I don't use, but it is expensive. And they have something called Atomic, which I think I had their diamond package before, which was like $2,000+ a year, and it had Atomic there, and I was using that. But I noticed recently when I had to resubscribe that it's now an additional cost. So it's something I don't know. I think I was getting maybe it's like $200+ extra a month in addition to what you're paying for the subscription. So it was a lot of money, and the idea is that I mean, it seems quite sophisticated. It will you can set up your campaigns, and it would have a general one, which would then take it down into a performance set, and then that would take them down into an exact set, and it does this sort of automatically, and it just makes kind of having to handle all your campaigns easier. But it is expensive, and I think there are other tools out there that if people just want to specialize in that, and then
mm.
they can look at other options and not have to spend so much money on it.
Okay. Okay. Got it. And do you have some YouTube channel that you can share? Maybe that you for your to learn new thing about Amazon, etc. Do you follow some specific YouTube channels?
Really, the way it's been for me is like of when I've come against a problem, I've just sort of put it into YouTube and found videos that way.
Mm.
There's a couple of people I follow. There's Adam Heist,
Yeah.
who is really big in the Amazon space. I actually met him. Well, I didn't really meet him, but he was at an event that I
Mm.
was at a month ago, Seller
Mm.
Sessions.
Okay.
So he done a talk there, and he was at the after party as well. It's him, and then there's my Amazon guy,
Mm.
Simon Hope or Pope or something. Like
Yeah.
he's
Stephen Pope. Yeah.
Stephen Pope. Yeah, Stephen Pope. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so he's very good. He gives a lot of value.
Mm.
Very technical as well. I think pretty much any problem you've had, if you go onto his website or you just put him into YouTube, he would have a video telling you how to overcome it. So
Yeah.
he's great. And there's a few other ones that I can't remember the names of right now, but there's a
Mm.
lot of great content out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Steve, thank you very much for sharing everything, sharing your story about Amazon.
My
It's really
pleasure.
nice to hear all of that. I hope you will reach your goal of doubling your revenue, going full time on it, sell your business. Is that the goal? And maybe see you later for another video, another sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe when I do an exit, we can have a catch up and I can tell you how that all went.
Yeah, sure, sure. It will be good to have the full story then.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you
Well,
for
thanks again for
sharing.
your time, Nas. It's great to see you. And yeah, hopefully we can have a catch up another time anyway.
Sure, sure. Thanks, you guys,
All right.
for listening to this podcast. Please subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button to get notification when there is new podcast. And see you in another episode. See you.